One of the most well-respected British directors working today is Sir Ridley Scott. Like a lot of my favorite directors, Sir Ridley is very diverse in terms of tackling different genres. But the two genres Sir Ridley seems to keep coming back to is the science fiction and the epic genre. As of this recording, Sir Ridley is 85 years old and is a recipient of 3 Best Director Oscar nominations. His work still continues today. This year he will release his upcoming epic Napoleon, starring Joaquin Phoenix, to Apple TV later this year. Of the many films he's made, I'm going to list 12 of my favorite of his films. This is my top 12 favorite Ridley Scott movies. Number 12. Exodus, Gods and Kings. Released in 2014, the film is the story of Moses leading the Hebrew people out of bondage under the iron fist of Pharaoh Ramesses.
I didn't expect to hear a simple yes, but I do not want to hear a simple no. Is that what you're telling me? Are you saying no?
I'm not saying no. I'm saying time. Time.
You're listening to Hebrews. I'm listening to Hebrews. Who are you talking to? God.
I know a lot of people don't like this movie for reasons such as the casting of white actors in Middle Eastern parts, but my feeling is that for me, there are 3 films about Moses. The go-to film is Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments. For youngsters being introduced to the story of Moses, The Prince of Egypt is the film to see. Exodus, Gods and Kings, however, tells the story of Moses from a completely agnostic point of view, so non-believers could look at and go, yeah, that's probably how it went down.
Will you say that you didn't cause all this? Your God did? I am the God! I am the God!
I mean, sure, Christian Bale is no Charlton Heston by any sense of the imagination, but still, Bale is a very emotionally driven actor and really holds his own as Moses, and it's always a thrill to watch.
Are you trying to say something with your actions? Is it meant to humble me? Because it will not!
Also, the scenes depicting the plagues of Egypt is very well done. Number 11. Legend. Released in 1985, Legend is the story of a young boy, played by Tom Cruise, who must save a beautiful princess from the Lord of Darkness, who plans to cover the world in eternal night. Though this film was a failure on its initial release, Legend has become a cult classic and is well remembered for Tim Curry's performance as Darkness and sporting a magnificent makeup by Rob Bottin, a makeup that took 5.5 hours to apply each day. At one point, Curry got claustrophobic and pulled the makeup off too quickly, pulling with it his own skin.
Every wolf suffers fleas. 'Tis easy enough to scratch.
The first time I saw it, I was gobsmacked. I was like, that's Tim Curry? How the hell did they make him look like that? Nowadays, this would be a completely digital character, but back then, there was no such thing as performance capture or CGI. It really makes you appreciate the use of prosthetic makeup. This is another one of those films that feature Tom Cruise in his earlier films. He was still green as an actor, so his acting is not up to par as he would be in Top Gun.
What a fine, fat boy you are, Jack!
You don't really mean to eat me, do you, ma'am?
Oh, indeed I do!
This is a film I enjoy not so much for the story, but for the visuals. Plus, more American audiences prefer the theatrical cut with the score by Tangerine Dream, but for myself, I always preferred the director's cut with Jerry Goldsmith's score.
I'll be here. I'll always be here for you, Lily.
Number 10. Thelma and Louise. Released in 1991, tells the story of a waitress and a housewife going on a road trip, but get caught up in an unforeseen circumstance, leading them to become fugitives on the run from the cops. This is one of the few films you wouldn't expect someone like Sir Ridley to make, but in point of fact, he, much like James Cameron, has a knack for including strong, self-reliant female characters in his films. In this particular case, you've got two great actresses, Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis, both of whom command your attention whenever they're on screen. Winning an Oscar for its screenplay, Thelma and Louise mixes action, adventure, with a little bit of a romantic comedy, making one of the most successful films of 1991, and Sir Ridley was awarded with an Oscar nomination for Best Director. Number 9. American Gangster. Based on the New York Magazine article The Return of Superfly by Mark Jacobson, American Gangster is a fictionalized account of the rise and fall of Frank Lucas, a Harlem-based gangster who smuggled heroin on American service planes returning from the Vietnam War. He is soon hunted down and brought to justice by Detective Richie Roberts.
Let me ask you this. Do you really think that putting me behind bars is gonna change anything on them streets? Them dope fiends are gonna shoot it, they're gonna steal from it, they're gonna die for it. Putting me in or out ain't gonna change one thing. And that's the way it is.
Universal Pictures bought the rights to the article in 2000. Sir Ridley was first offered the script written by Steven Zaillian in 2002, but turned it down as he wanted to do another movie. Other directors were offered, including Brian De Palma and Antoine Fuqua. Fuqua had been involved in the production for quite a while until Universal fired him in 2004, just 4 weeks before production was to begin. Universal pulled the plug on the production, and then Universal revived the production in 2005 with another director, and still they couldn't get it off the ground. When Sir Ridley and Zaillian met to discuss another project, American Gangster was brought up, and this time, Sir Ridley was interested in doing it. Playing Frank Lucas is Denzel Washington.
See, you are what you are in this world. That's either one or two things. Either you're somebody, or you're nobody.
Washington is such a brilliant actor with 2 Academy Awards to prove it, but as Lucas, he holds your attention every time he's on screen. He's a guy who's willing to shoot you dead in broad daylight in front of hundreds of people.
You gonna shoot me in front of everybody? Huh? Come on.
Russell Crowe as Richie Roberts plays a good cop in a time when the police department was corrupt.
I asked you nice to shut up, right? Now I'm gonna have to kill you. I swear I will pull out my gun and put a bullet in your fucking head. Now stop what you're doing and pick up the glass.
With a stellar supporting cast, American Gangster is a first-rate gangster picture from Ridley Scott. Number 8. The Last Duel. Based on the book by Eric Jagger, tells the true story of a knight whose wife accuses his squire of raping her. The knight challenges the squire to a trial by combat. If the knight should die, his wife would be burned at the stake for bearing false witness. If the knight kills the squire, then she was telling the truth. The film is split into 3 chapters, telling the story from the perspective of the 3 central characters. The knight, played by Matt Damon, the squire, played by Adam Driver, and the wife, played by Jodie Comer. But unlike so many of Sir Ridley's other epics, this one is very thought-provoking. The squire still maintains his innocence, and yet his defeat in the duel clarifies that his wife was indeed the victim of rape. Yet the knight doesn't see this as a personal victory. For all we know, he may have killed an innocent man, in this case, his squire. It's not very cut and dry, even though the film tells us that it is. We as the audience are still left to question. There's so many reflections of today's culture climate where women were struggling to be heard and believed following the Me Too movement. Only this takes place at a time when women were only to be seen, not heard. You don't get that from other epics.
I was raped. And despite my protestations and my revulsion, did I go crying to my lord? I had better things to worry about. No, I stood up, got on with my life.
But at what cost?
At what cost? I'm alive.
Well, you have paid a dear price for that privilege.
This was one of those films that were in production around the time COVID-19 set the world on fire. In fact, production had to be shut down for several months. Despite good feedback from critics, the movie was mostly ignored by audiences as it opened the same day as Venom: Let There Be Carnage. It later received financial success when it came on demand. It's such a shame more people didn't see it on its initial release, because I found it to be such an eye-opener.
I say before all of you, I spoke the truth.
Let it be in God's hands.
Number 7. House of Gucci. Based on the book by Sarah Gay Forden, tells the true story of Patrizia Reggiani, played to perfection by Lady Gaga, and Maurizio Gucci, fighting for control of the Gucci fashion empire, ultimately leading to his assassination by a hitman hired by Patrizia.
Don't miss.
This film came out the same year as The Last Duel. However, Sir Ridley had wanted to make a film about Gucci since 2006. Angelina Jolie and Leonardo DiCaprio were attached at one point. Sir Ridley's daughter, Jordan, at one point was attached to direct with Penelope Cruz. When Sir Ridley came back into the production, Lady Gaga, following her outstanding performance in Bradley Cooper's A Star Is Born, was slated to portray Patrizia.
At least it's my name on the mugs, not yours.
Our name, sweetie.
The film also features a brilliant supporting cast, including Adam Driver, Jack Huston, Selma Hayek, Jared Leto, Al Pacino, and Jeremy Irons, in a role originally intended for Robert De Niro. After seeing the film, I thought to myself, if the Guccis were one of the 5 mafia families, the other 4 families would stay away from them completely because they were absolutely nuts. It's a great movie, although Jared Leto's Italian accent is something to be desired.
Father, Son, and House of Gucci.
Number 6. Robin Hood. Released in 2010, it is the story of the English outlaw, but this time, It's about how Robin Hood came to be, sort of like Batman Begins.
Your next move will be your last.
This time, he is Robin Longstride, an archer in Richard the Lionheart's army. When Richard and one of the knights, Sir Robert Locksley, is slain, he assumes the identity of Locksley to inform the royal family of King Richard's death. When he returns to Nottingham to inform the elderly Locksley of his son's death, he is told to continue to impersonating his son to prevent the tyrannical King John from seizing the Locksley family land. Locksley's widow, Marion, is at first cold towards him, but soon warms to him.
I sleep with a dagger. If you so much as move to touch me, I will sever your manhood. You understand?
Thanks for the warning.
It started out as a spec script called Nottingham by Ethan Raffe and Cyrus Vorse. It wound up in the hands of Russell Crowe and Imagine Entertainment co-founder Brian Grazer, who immediately suggested Sir Ridley to direct it. However, the script felt like an episode of CSI, so the script was rewritten from top to bottom by Brian Helgeland, the Academy Award-winning writer of LA Confidential.
The laws of this land enslave people to its king. A king who demands loyalty but offers nothing in return.
The story of Robin Hood is the kind of story that can be told from generation to generation, and each generation would have its own version. It's an interesting take on the character, and Russell Crowe can do no wrong. Plus, Cate Blanchett as Marion is a brilliant idea. Unlike many other adaptations of Marion, this time, she's not the typical damsel in distress. This time, she's a self-reliant and independent woman who isn't afraid to go and kick some ass.
For the love of God, Marion!
Despite mixed reviews, the film was still a financial success. There are some to this day who want to see a sequel to this film, but after this dumpster fire, that's probably not going to happen.
Rise and rise again, until lambs become lions.
Number 5. Black Hawk Down.
You shouldn't have come here. This is our war, not yours.
300,000 dead and counting. That's not a war, Mr. Ito. That's genocide.
Based on the book by Mark Bowden, it tells the true story of the soldiers in the Battle of Mogadishu, Somalia, that took place in 1993. What started out as a raid that was supposed to last an hour, resulting in the arrest of 2 of the lieutenants of a warlord, ended up a battle that lasted 18 hours, resulting in 18 American soldiers killed, 73 wounded, 1 captured, and 2 Black Hawk helicopters destroyed.
We got a Black Hawk down, we got a Black Hawk down.
Black Hawk Down is next to Saving Private Ryan, the greatest film about military combat, and depicts combat in all its brutal honesty.
Tell my girls I'll be okay.
Another director had been attached to it but dropped out after completing another film, so the film fell to Sir Ridley after completing the Silence of the Lambs sequel, Hannibal. The film features an extraordinary cast, including Josh Hartnett, Eric Bana, Ewan McGregor, Tom Sizemore, Jason Isaacs, William Fichtner, and Sam Shepard. Opening in 2001, just 3 months after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, it was such a success, winning 2 Oscars for Best Sound Mixing and Film Editing. And Sir Ridley was even nominated for Best Director.
Nobody has to be a hero. It just sometimes turns out that way.
Number 4. Kingdom of Heaven, Director's Cut. Released in 2005, Kingdom of Heaven is the story of a French blacksmith aiding the Christians in defense from the Muslims who are fighting to reclaim the Holy Land. Now, when this movie came out in 2005, it received lukewarm reviews and bombed hard at the box office. Little did we know that the version we saw in theaters was a heavily compromised version, with all its substance removed at the behest of the studio wanting to keep the movie a manageable length. About 45 minutes of footage, including character development and substance, was reinstated into the film and was finally hailed by those same critics as a masterpiece. It has everything you'd expect in a Ridley Scott epic. Beautiful sets, lots of extras, lavish costumes, big battle scenes. It's the kind of film Cecil B. DeMille would look at and give Sir Ridley the thumbs up. It features a cast that includes Orlando Bloom, Ava Green, Brendan Gleeson, Jeremy Irons, and Liam Neeson. So if you want to see Kingdom of Heaven, now I can't stress this enough, do not watch the theatrical cut. Only watch the director's cut. Sure, it's 3 hours in length, but if you can sit through a movie like Titanic, you can damn well sit through this movie.
Rise a knight! Rise a knight!
Number 3. Gladiator. Released in 2000, it tells the story of a Roman general who is betrayed when the son of the Emperor of Rome kills his own father to seize power. Reduced to a slave, he becomes a gladiator and rises through the ranks of the arena to avenge the murder of his wife and son and the true Emperor of Rome. When the script was being written, Antonio Banderas was in mind to play Maximus. When he declined, Mel Gibson, Tom Sizemore, and Tom Cruise were considered. The producers wanted Russell Crowe, following his performance in LA Confidential.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
Also worth mentioning is Joaquin Phoenix as the evil Commodus.
You loved my father, I know. But so did I. That makes us brothers, doesn't it? Smile for me now, brother.
The film itself was plagued with production problems due to the script not being finished, and on top of that, actor Oliver Reed died of a heart attack before production was finished, and he had scenes that were left to be shot. So his performance was finished with the help of a digital body double. Despite that, the film was a big success, winning 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and Russell Crowe won Best Actor.
What we doing live? Echoes in eternity.
How Steven Soderbergh won Best Director over Sir Ridley for this movie is one of the biggest mysteries to me. Just recently, Sir Ridley announced that a sequel will be released on the 22nd of November of 2024. How will that work? We can only wait and see. Number 2. Alien. Released in 1979, it tells the story of a group of astronauts who receive a distress call from an unexplored planet. When they return home, they discover that an extraterrestrial life form is on the ship with them. The film is described as a sci-fi movie, but for me, it's a gothic horror film set in outer space. It features one of the most unique designs by Swiss artist H.R. Giger, creating a biomechanical world the likes of which no one has ever seen before. It also features the screen debut of Sigourney Weaver.
Well, let's talk about killing it. We know it's using the air shafts. Will you listen to me, Parker? Shut up!
But the one thing Alien is most remembered for is this chest burster scene.
Oh, God!
Sir Ridley would return to the universe with Prometheus and Alien Covenant, but it's Alien that hits all the right notes and still has the ability to make your skin crawl. And my number one favorite Ridley Scott movie is Blade Runner. Based on the Philip K. Dick novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, is set in the dystopian world of Los Angeles 2019, where synthetic humans known as replicants are bioengineered to work on space colonies. But when a fugitive group of advanced replicants escape back to Earth, a burned-out detective, played by Harrison Ford, agrees begrudgingly to hunt them down and to kill them, or as they call it, retiring. Sir Ridley's involvement was inevitable. When he was first offered it, he was in production of Dune, based on the Frank Herbert novel. That production fell through, and adding to that, Sir Ridley's brother Frank died of cancer, and later agreed to do Blade Runner so to keep himself occupied and take his mind off of it. When this film was released in 1982, audiences were still flocking to the movies repeatedly to see E.T., which was a more optimistic feel-good movie. Blade Runner was advertised as a sci-fi action movie, when in fact it wasn't. It was a tech-noir detective story. It's a slow burn kind of a movie, and years after it bombed in cinemas, theaters did midnight screenings and slowly started to gain the recognition it deserved and became one of the greatest sci-fi movies in history.
Replicants are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem.
Just the look of the film is so appealing. It's such a dark, tech-based world that could be almost anywhere. Harrison Ford is still in top form after the successes of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. There are a total of 5 different versions of Blade Runner available due to studio interference by Warner Brothers. The go-to version of Blade Runner one should go see is the final cut. It was personally supervised and approved by Sir Ridley, and removes that bad voiceover narration in the theatrical cut, and all the visual effects are tidied up considerably.
He say you Blade Runner.
Tell him I'm eating.
In later years, Blade Runner was given a sequel called Blade Runner 2049 with Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling. Despite winning 2 Academy Awards for visual effects and cinematography, it, like its predecessor, failed at the box office. But nevertheless, Blade Runner is Sir Ridley Scott at his best, and worthy of the number 1 spot. Blade Runner, my number 1 favorite Ridley Scott movie.
All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears.